Hey guys, as the name of this channel suggests, we talk about money on this channel, and we often talk about it in a personal finance, investing, saving money, international lifestyle kind of context. But today we're going to look at money, but talking about money, or rather finance, as a career. Because finance can be a very interesting and very rewarding career as well. But of course, it doesn't come without its challenges. And then again, what even is finance? We hear the term being used to refer to a lot of different careers that seem completely unrelated. That's what I'm going to look at in this video. We're going to look at some of the different areas in finance you could work in, tell you a bit about them, and I'll also tell you a little bit about my own career and how I've ended up where I am in my career. So, let's go right into the video. So I'll start by telling you a little bit about my career and how I've ended up where I'm at. So I'm originally from the UK, as you know. That's where I studied my degree. I did a degree in business management, and then I went on to do a master's in international business, specializing in corporate finance. And that corporate finance part of my degree essentially led me to do a bit of study in France, and that then led me down my career path. When I started university, I wasn't clear exactly on what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do something business related because I found business quite interesting. And then as I went through my program, I did some of the finance, some of the accounting modules. That's where I realized that I kind of had an interest in numbers, that I was particularly good at working with the numbers. But I also really had an interest in the business side of things, understanding business decisions, looking at case studies as to how businesses have succeeded or failed in the past. I always found that really interesting at university, and I knew that was something that I particularly was interested in as well. So during my degree, I did two internships. I did one year-long finance internship, and I did a 3-month kind of marketing or account management internship in a different company in France. So what I learned from that was that from the finance part, that I was good with the numbers, I was good with the problem solving, but there wasn't really much business, like learning about the business involved in the internship. Then I went on to do the account management, business developer kind of internship. And I realized, there wasn't enough numbers involved. It was all kind of, lead generation, account management, and didn't really get to see any of how this has an impact on the business. So I was thinking to myself, is there some kind of middle ground in here? Because this would be the ideal solution. Fast forward through to my master's, and I have to do another internship. So this time I apply for an internship as a financial controller. Now, this is essentially where the two become together, because it leaned more towards the finance part, financial reporting, making sure that the numbers were correct, but you did get some exposure to the business to understand why the numbers are the way they are. And this is where I started to find, okay, this is what I really like, a bit of finance mixed with a bit of business. So this is kind of the career path I want to go down. I then left France and moved to Spain, hoping to continue down this career pathway, and I essentially did. Stayed in a similar kind of finance analyst role where it was still very much number focused, but again got more and more exposure to the business and understood what's going on behind it. And the last year I was promoted onto an assignment, which I'm still doing at the moment, which is essentially kind of a finance partner role. So it's the perfect combination of looking at the numbers and looking at the business, because in this role, I interact with different people around the business. I learn exactly what's going on. And then essentially with that, I have the numbers, or I create the numbers through budgeting and forecasting to tell the story of what's going on in the business. And this is something that I really enjoy at the moment, something I'd like to continue doing. And as we go through the different finance careers that I'm going to explain as we go through the video, you'll see kind of what the career progression from this is and what I could perhaps expect to do in the future based on kind of the pathway I've gone down. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to break these finance careers down into 3 categories. We're going to call them technical function oriented careers, business function oriented careers, and then financial services careers. So starting with technical function careers. Now what I mean by this is essentially you have a clear, well-defined role within finance and you carry out a particular function for the company. Now that might be accounting, you might be working in tax, you might be working in audit, you might be working in treasury, for example. These are all essential tasks that a company will need to complete, and they're well-defined functions within a company, and you'll have specialists within these different fields to carry out the related tasks. So if you're in these roles, you're going to have a lot of technical knowledge, a lot of understanding of laws and regulations that govern finance, such as IFRS, such as GAAP. You're going to be familiar with different ERP systems, accounting software, and you might be familiar with international or local tax law as well, if that's your function. And as a result, they tend to be very cyclical jobs, so they will revolve around a company's financial calendar, its different reporting obligations, when they close a particular accounting period, when they close their financial year, etc. Now, if you're in one of these jobs, your role will be very well defined and pretty much it'll be very clear what's expected of you. So you'll have clear instructions and you'll know what you have to do, when you have to do it. And because you have the theoretical and the technical background, you'll know exactly how to do it as well. Say as well, generally, you've probably got a good work-life balance if you're in one of these roles, with the exception that, your holidays or days off might be planned around some of these cyclical activities. And as a result of it being cyclical and very deadline focused, it can be quite stressful, particularly if you've got a system error or you're waiting on information or there's a problem or something, because these deadlines are generally pretty strict in these functions. So you got to keep that in mind as well. And if you're in one of these areas as well, you're probably not going to see too much outside of it as well. If you're in accounting or if you're in audit, that will very much be your focus. You won't get too much exposure, I would say, generally to the rest of what's going on in a company or in the business. Now let's move on to the business function oriented careers, and this is where I would consider myself essentially. So if you're a finance analyst, you're a finance partner, maybe a financial controller, and then as you go further up the chain, perhaps a finance director, for example, or a CFO at the very high end. So in these kind of roles, it's expected that you have the same kind of technical knowledge as someone who comes from one of these technical oriented roles. The thing is, you use it in a different way. You typically use it to conduct and perform business analysis and then take relevant decisions as a result of that analysis. So there's a lot of crossover, particularly in roles like financial controller, where you'll be very much, you'll be in the numbers, but you do need to understand what's going on in the business because you need to tell the story behind the numbers. Same if you're a finance partner, you're going to see a lot of the business and then you need to tell the story with the numbers. And the analysis you perform, you'll often be required to present it to different people around the business, and then those people, based on your information, will take business decisions as a result of that. So it's really cool in that sense that you have kind of a direct impact on the business that you're working with. And it is also likely to be a cyclical job. You might not follow the exact same cycles as someone who's in accounting, for example, but a company, they'll have activities that need completing on a regular basis, whether it's quarterly or annually, and you'll be expected, to input and be available to support on those activities. Some of the other good things about this role is that as part of your analysis, you'll get to speak to a lot of different people from all around the business, from various different functions. And that's really good for learning about how the overall business works. So, you're not just seeing inside the numbers, you get to see how the whole business actually works. And then, you can use that when you're telling the story. But beyond that, it's particularly useful if you want to make a transition into a different kind of role, whether it's a managerial role, whether it's something that involves strategic decision making. These kind of finance jobs are particularly valuable when you are looking to pivot in a different direction in your career. However, this job can also be particularly stressful, both with the level of responsibility that it comes with, and also with the the deadlines and analyses that have to be done as well. So your overall work-life balance is generally okay, but just be aware that there will probably be times of the year where you're a lot busier and a lot more stressed than at other points of the year. And from a career progression perspective, if you are looking to stay within finance, then your progression is probably going to be a bit slower, because yes, you do learn a lot, but it takes a lot of time to acquire that knowledge, and kind of the jump from one of these kind of roles up to a managerial or a next level role is quite big. So you do need to get some experience, understanding the business and probably even managing people as well if you're in one of these roles. And finally, financial service roles. Now, these are typically people working for large financial institutions, providing services to companies that will improve their financial situation. So think of people who work on Wall Street in the City of London, who work in investment banking, mergers and acquisitions, or traders or investment analysts. These are the kind of jobs we're talking about here. Now, though I haven't worked directly in the sector, I do have a good idea of what one might expect if you're working in the sector, and a friend of mine was also very kind as to review kind of my input and share some of his thoughts as well. So we'll get into all of that right now. So if you're working in financial services, essentially you'll be working on deals, acquisitions, or you'll be providing investment analysis or research to people to help them make decisions at the corporate level of a company. So whether it's an acquisition, whether it's selling off part of the business, whether to merge with another company, whether to take their business in a particular direction. A very fast-paced, high-responsibility environment. You're going to be working on multi-million, sometimes even multi-billion-dollar deals, depending on who the company is you're working with. And as a result, in finance terms, you're going to be generating a lot of financial value for the clients that you're working with. And as a result, that's why, there's often high salaries, high bonuses that come with these kind of roles, which I think is one of the main perks that a lot of people look for. You're also going to get a lot of exposure to very senior stakeholders, both in your own institution and in, the client company that you're working for. And as a result, and because of what you'll see in what you're working on, you'll have the ability that if you one day leave a financial services, that you can probably move into a career and start further up the ladder because of your exposure to more senior colleagues and because of the different understanding that you'll have gained during your time in financial services. However, with a high salary and high bonuses come very high expectations, long working hours. A lot of people end up burning out. And needless to say as well, it's obviously a very, very competitive sector with a lot of people wanting to make it up to the top. Particularly in your early years in financial services, you're going to be working long hours. It's going to disrupt your weekends, your holidays. So from a work-life balance perspective, there's not really work-life balance in financial services, to be honest. So as attractive of a career as it seems, you do need to think very carefully about if it's something that you can manage for the long haul, if some of these big sacrifices on the personal side of your life are going to be worth it for you. So to pull everything together, you can see that finance isn't just one clear-cut definition. There are lots of different areas that you can go into. What I would definitely say is don't go into finance for the money because, even though finance is a well-paying career, as with anything, if you go into it for the money, you're not going to last, you're not going to perform really well. As I say, I went into finance because it's something I was interested in and something that I was good at, not because it was going to be something that pays well. And with a lot of these careers as well, you do have opportunities for progression. So even though, you're an accountant or you're in audit, you can move within finance and get expertise in different areas. And, once you're in finance, whether it's, financial analysis or financial services, you can then move out of finance into different sectors. So do be open to other options outside of finance as well, because it can be really interesting and really beneficial from a career perspective as well. So I hope you guys found this video informative and useful, particularly if you're looking to make a decision about your career in finance. I hope this was of use to you. Leave a comment and let me know, are you working in finance or are you looking to work in finance, and what kind of career interests you? Till next time, I'll see you on the next one, and let's get this money.